Hi everyone, welcome to the Icehouse podcast. Today's podcast is all about introducing our new chair of the board, and that is David Downs. What an honour to have him part of the Icehouse board. Today's podcast is all about getting to know David as we welcome him onto the Icehouse team. So thanks, David, for being on the podcast.
Oh, kia ora. Nice to see you, and thanks for having me. It's an honour to be part of this amazing organisation, actually.
Awesome. I can't wait to dive deeper. But to start off, I like to start these getting to know podcasts with some quick fire questions. So first things first, what is your coffee order?
Oh, I don't drink coffee. I only drink tea, actually, which makes me a second-class citizen in most cafes that we go to.
How?
Beautiful coffees, and there's like artisan, and there's someone drawing pictures on the thing. And then if you say you want tea, they give you a bag and a pot of water, and you go,
and they send you on your way. Yeah, that's hilarious. Wow, that surprised me. Okay, morning or night person?
Oh, morning, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, much better. I get up sleepy at about 8 o'clock.
Yeah. With that, any morning routine then that sticks out?
I've got this really bad habit, which I think I formed during the COVID lockdown, which is I get up, get straight into kind of email and work and stuff like that before the rest of the family wakes up and before I even have breakfast. But then also what I did during COVID is I started trying to get my fitness level back up, and so I've been doing a lot of exercising. When I say a lot, I mean, 2 times a week. But yeah, morning routine is more you sort of get your mind into it while it's fresh, while your mind's working.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Favorite meal?
Oh, favorite meal. And I love a home cooked meal because I spend far too much time away from home. I'm in Wellington at the moment. I travel a lot. Even, post COVID, I still travel a lot. And so I just love it when I get home and maybe my wife and I cook together and we might have a little glass of wine while we're cooking something.
Yeah, love it.
Like that. So it's really what the food is. It's more about the experience.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Favorite place in the world?
Golly. Favorite place in the world. I think I live in it, which is I live in Devonport in Auckland. Very privileged to be quite near the beach, not on the beach, but Devonport and Cheltenham Beach where I live has just got this beautiful mixture. You're very close to a big city, 10 minutes on the ferry, but you're also then by the sea, and I can walk up the mountains and stuff like that. So for me, I've traveled so much around the world, and I'm yet to find a place that I prefer.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, it's a good spot there. Bit of everything. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
With family, because I've still got three boys. 2 of them are teenagers and a sort of a nearly grown up one, or they're all grown up really. And I my kids take me to shows and stuff like that, and I spend a lot of time actually also doing some work with patients. I had cancer a couple of years ago, as you might know. We might touch on that. And so I actually spend quite a bit of my spare time with other cancer patients and kind of that sort of part of my life as well.
Wow, that's really cool. That's great to hear. Is there a book you'd recommend people should read? Or good if not everyone's a bookworm.
Great question. I read a lot and I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And so every time you ask that question, there'll be a different answer, because it usually is the last book I just read, which was awesome. But I'll give you that answer. The last book I just read, which was awesome, was called Belonging, by a New Zealander called Owen Eastwood, who lives in the UK now, and he trains high performance teams and sports teams, and he's worked with the English football team and cricket squads around the world and all these amazing things. And like many people, he's sort of taking this concept of high performance sport into the business world. But what he's done beautifully, because he's a Kiwi, is used really the amazing values of Te Ao Māori, and thought about what does this really mean in the sense of belonging and who you are and where you come from and how important it is to you as a person. So that's the book, Belong. I won't give up too much more than that, but it's a wonderful book that's sort of really affirming about New Zealanders' place on the world stage based on our concept of people and place here.
Awesome. I love that. First ever job, and this is our last one. First ever job.
Librarian.
Yes, I like that.
People know that. That's a good question to ask people. My first ever job, I worked in a library. I was a nerdy 14-year-old or whatever it was at the time, and my job was to sort of stack the books and put them away and stuff. And it was like the cruisiest job, really. I loved it.
That's awesome. Okay, nice. I like to ask that because I think it flows nice into our first, meaty question, which is walk us through your career to date.
Wow. Okay. Career is a generous phrase for a set of experiences that sort of string together with no
Yeah.
real. But yeah, because I don't really have a career plan, or I didn't. But when I look back, it all makes really good sense in my head anyway. So I went off to university after secondary school, but I decided I didn't really like university. I didn't like the structured learning approach, and there were far more interesting things to do. And I ended up dropping out of university and becoming an actor and a
Wow.
writer, comedian for about 5 or 6 years. So I did that, from the age of about 19 to the age of about 25, and just had a wonderful time of in this. The arts scene was really cool. Things were happening. I was working in TV shows and radio, and it was really, really cool. And then my wife and I decided to get married, and we thought, well, one of us better get a proper job, because you can hardly get married when we're both bumming around in TV. She's a TV director, and so I thought, well, I did a bit of university. I could start. So I started up my own business, and this is where my empathy for a small business comes from, because I actually started two businesses at the same time. One was a technology company,
Yeah.
the sort of thing today you'd call a tech startup. But back then we didn't have those cool words, so we just called it a failing small business, which is still the accurate phrase. And then simultaneously that I set up a hospitality business, which was actually
Wow.
a comedy club, which is still going, and it's in Auckland. It's called the Classic
Cool.
on Queen Street. And so two small businesses, and I was the sort of chief exec of both of them at the same time for a couple of years, and that was tough going, and I really understood the power. I learned, it was my MBA for free. I learned about
Mm,
cash flow management. I learned about dealing with the bank. I learned all this stuff about business strategy and stuff on the job, like doing two
yeah.
completely different styles of businesses. Anyway, after doing it for a few years, I moved to Ireland and worked in Ireland for a while in the technology sector over there. It was a really cool time, late 90s, early 2000s. There was the Celtic Tiger, it was called. It was like the dot-com era.
Yeah.
Very funky place to work in innovation. And I worked for an organization over there that was kind of innovating around internet business models way back when we didn't really know what they were even going to be.
Wow.
Came back to New Zealand, got headhunted by Microsoft, or asked to join Microsoft, which was really cool. And I spent about 10 years in New Zealand, and then a few years in Asia, in Singapore, working for Microsoft, running one of their divisions across Southeast Asia and all the emerging markets. And I'm nearly there, by the way. And then I decided to come back to New Zealand again. We had the kids, and we decided we'd come back to New Zealand, put them through school in New Zealand, the secondary school. And I really loved the work that we were doing with business growth. Like when I was at Microsoft, yes, we were selling software, but actually when you see the impact for businesses, I really enjoyed it. And I loved the idea of doing that for a job. So I actually approached and worked with NZTE and got a job at New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. Ended up sort of general manager there for in various different roles
Wow.
for about 8 years, including working with the Icehouse. And all these sort of things, by the way, had touch points to the Icehouse. I've worked
Yeah.
with it at
Yeah.
Microsoft when
Totally.
it was first set up, and then NZTE. And so I did that for a while, and then my next career landed on me, and my next career was that of a cancer patient. As I mentioned, I got cancer, and I didn't choose that career, but I kind of got it. And that was about 2 years of my life, just going through battling cancer, and ultimately going to the US for treatment. And that's a
Wow.
whole
Yeah.
other part of my life, but I'm
Yeah.
happy to talk about that. But then after I came back from that, I thought, well, actually now maybe that's time to kind of keep moving. So I went into sort of a portfolio roles. And for the last few years, I've been doing board directorships and some consulting work, and working with, as I say, with cancer patients and charities and stuff.
Awesome.
And then again, I was sort of tempted back into full-time work with a role that I'm just starting up in my full. It's actually a 4-day-a-week job for me, running a thing called the New Zealand Story. So that's kind of my day job, is the
Yeah.
CEO of an organisation called the New Zealand Story, which is a government organisation or government-funded organisation that helps tell New Zealand's story to the world, to brand and market New Zealand for something other than just our tourism, which is awesome. But we've
Yeah.
got a nuanced story. So that's what I do in my day job, and
Yeah.
then I now work for the Icehouse as well.
Awesome. Man, that's so interesting and so diverse. I love it. And I'd love
Yeah.
to ask the question, did that experience with cancer change what you saw your purpose was, or what you wanted to do next after that, after dealing with something so big?
It sort of reinforced more than changed. It wasn't an outright change, because I was always on this sort of journey, I suppose, to kind of really understand where you can have impact and what's your purpose. And, we're going to get quite deep now, right? This is cool. Like,
we've gone there, people.
Yeah, we're over there. We are meaning making machines. Our roles is to really understand where we can have impact and what impact we can have. And for me, I'd been on that journey. So Microsoft sort of helped a bit. I learned a lot, but I realized I didn't really want to work for a global multinational making them a lot of money.
Yeah.
I really loved the idea of working for New Zealand. And when I was in NZT, that really felt right. It was growing the country for the purpose of making sure that everybody can benefit. But by the helping small businesses or businesses in general, NZT helped the country. And so when I went away, got sick, came back again, it just reinforced that actually helping other people is a really fulfilling way to spend your time.
Yeah.
And I hope I don't sound sanctimonious or like a wanker, but
no,
I really
totally agree.
You can do well and do good, So yeah, and an organization like the Icehouse just sort of fits right in that mold, because that's exactly the kaupapa of the organization is, it was set up as a charitable trust, and then the trust now owns the Icehouse, and the Icehouse has got multiple divisions, and but the ultimate purpose of all of that is to grow New Zealand's prosperity, not because we want lots of rich people buying lots of cars, but because we want everybody to prosper.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is raising the tide for everyone. So
Totally,
the purpose is still there,
agree.
Reinforced it.
Yeah, that's brilliant, David. You're speaking my language. Totally agree. And why I love working for the Icehouse myself, because of that purpose that comes behind it. Helps, motivate you to get up in the morning and feel like you're making a difference to other people's lives. So totally relate to that, which is awesome. So that, following from that, when did you first hear about the Icehouse, and how did the opportunity to become the chair of the Icehouse, congratulations, all come about?
I guess there are two questions. One, and they have a 20-year time difference.
Bit of a difference.
Probably you were only born. My God. Anyway, like the Icehouse, as people might know, came out of ideas that floated out of a thing called the Knowledge Wave, which was a conference that was held in the early 2000s. Really interesting idea, future foresighting conference, thinking about where do we want to be as a nation. And we're still on that journey of understanding that. But one of the initiatives that came out of it was the Icehouse, and the Auckland University's Institute for and Centre for Entrepreneurship, which is where the ICE bit comes from. And so, so I knew about it back then. I was kind of a little bit involved, came in and out. Andy, who's the previous CEO, and I formed a friendship, and I was helping out with a few things. And Icehouse runs the regional business partner program. It was a big provider of regional business partner services, and I used to run that program for government. So we kind of had a lot to do with it. So I guess over the years I've always been really involved and loved it. I was asked to, if I would be interested in kind of helping out, and 6 months or so ago, is Chris Quinn, who's the previous chair, was migrating out, and Chris has done an incredible job, as did Andy in his role. And so it's a big responsibility to think about how you could step into their shoes, and we won't, Gavin, who's the chief exec, won't do what Andy used to do. He'll do something completely different, and I won't do what Chris used to do. I'll do something different. But that, as I say, the kind of the purpose of the organization remains the same. So really pleased to be working. The board is a really strong, amazing board. The changes that were made over the last year, which if people here haven't heard, is around how we've taken the ventures part of the Icehouse and given it, I suppose, its own kind of oxygen and freedom, and said, look, you guys go and be really, really successful growing startups, but do it in a slightly separate structure. So the Icehouse Group is still the majority shareholder, but the Icehouse Ventures is free to bring in other shareholders, which it has done very successfully, and super cool to see that. And so, we've now got a kind of new configuration. The growth part of the business is a huge focus, helping SMEs to really be better and grow capability. So, all that stuff I'm really excited about. And, the opportunity to work with Gavin as the chief exec, with the leadership team and the board, the rest of the board, is, exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I didn't realize how many major touch points you had with the Icehouse throughout the years. It's quite cool.
Well, I think it's actually probably true of many people. Like the Icehouse has got a significant impact on New Zealand business, and I don't think it's well known. 1,000 SMEs have been through the owner manager program. We've had an impact over many organizations and people, more importantly than just organizations. to a really significant level. I mean, it's really almost impossible to really kind of accurately say what the impact has been because we don't know what the counterfactual would be. You know, like
Yeah.
the Icehouse hadn't existed for the last 20 years. What would the New Zealand business scene look like? But
Yeah.
what we can tell you is the New Zealand business scene is going well. Management development and capability services are being delivered really, strongly through the Icehouse. So I think there are lots of people through New Zealand that have been touched, but might not always know it.
Yeah, totally agree. It's awesome. Cool. What does our organization mission, what makes our organization's mission powerful to you? Now, we've mentioned it a lot through this conversation already, which I quite like. Is there anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I always want to come back to the why. There's this whole thing about layers of why. Why do you do something, and why do you do that, and why do you do that? And it's really important to not just sort of rest on the fact that the Icehouse helps businesses be better at running businesses. That's a lovely thing, but it's not the whole picture, because the whole picture is that actually we believe that New Zealand can be a prosperous country where everybody can thrive. Ultimately, that's what we all have to do. The way that we'll add to that and contribute to that whole vision is by ensuring that small and medium businesses have got the skills and the capability and the financing and the opportunities and stuff that they need. So I think that's really the kind of the core purpose. And it lines us up then with all the rest of the ecosystem. And we've always got to remember we're part of an ecosystem of, other organizations, government agencies, individual companies who are all striving for the same sort of thing. But our place is by helping others be fantastic at what they do.
Totally. Yeah. Sums it up so well. And this is a big question, but what do you plan to bring to the Icehouse?
Wow, cool. A big job interview, bro.
Gavin didn't tell you, but this is your fifth round of.
You're wrong. That's the end. What do I produce? Well, I guess there's a few things. I mean, through my motley career, I suppose I've accumulated lots of connections and people and knowledge of how systems work. Particularly, I've worked inside the government system and different agencies. I can kind of see how the Icehouse fits into that broader ecosystem. So I'll probably bring some connections and ways of working that might help the Icehouse really think about how it fits into that wider system and navigate the the political environment or the public sector. And then also over the years, I've also had the an incredible privilege of spending a lot of time with SMEs and businesses, and particularly in the innovation space. And I've written a couple of books on New Zealand innovation and stuff too. So I feel like I bring a bit of a perspective of companies and organizations that are out there, and I'll hopefully just kind of constantly keep that in front of us because they're our core constituents, the companies that we work with. So yeah, I guess it's and then working with Gavin and the team is, a board is always there to kind of complement and help the direction of the organization, but actually the leadership team of the organization needs to do the work. So you've got Robbie leading the ventures team, you've got Gavin leading the rest of the business, and as the group CEO, he's going to need help from the board. My job is to kind of help be that person who kind of consolidates together that help for him.
Yeah, that's great. Great answer. And just hearing your experience in government organizations, and an awesome organization, NZTE, that we love working with. That's awesome. But then also having two businesses where you said it was like an MBA, thrown into the deep end a little bit. But learning on your feet, it's brilliant. It comes together and makes an awesome package for what we do at the Icehouse. Cool.
Yeah, I know. I think it's really important. I think maybe it's not unique because a few people got it, but having the perspective of working large corporate, which I've done for many years, government, which I've done for many years, and running small businesses of my own, small and medium businesses, I think gives me kind of empathy and hopefully experience that will be relevant.
Yeah, at all sides of business. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So at the Icehouse, on the growth side of things, our new line is "Grit goes further together." It's sort of, I love it. It sort of came out of not really a rebrand, but a rethink about what our small, medium-sized businesses are all about and what means a lot to them. And that word grit, I love it. Grit goes further together. What does that sort of thing mean to you?
Well, it's actually a really cool thing, and I hadn't necessarily clicked that was the thing. I probably should learn up a bit more about
No, you know lots. You know lots of things about the Icehouse.
Yeah, well, I mean that was the phrase that used. Grit is one of the most important thing. I mean, grit's another way of saying persistence, or fortitude, or I suppose the idea that so entrepreneurs and people who set up businesses are irrational and unreasonable people, and that's
Yeah.
not that's a compliment, because they think differently and they do things differently than the rest of the world. And if they were the sort of people that were easily, put off by doing something, where failure or setbacks kind of just made them stop, then they wouldn't be great at being entrepreneurs. So grit is almost the number one requirement you need to
Yeah.
have. You need to have this perseverance, this sort of dogged determination, this kind of unreasonable optimism about the future.
Yeah.
I think that's it for me. I've written a couple of books about New Zealand entrepreneurs and businesses, and the number one attribute that the successful ones all have is that they're not deterred by difficulty or failure or things getting in their way. So that grit, and then the going better together, I love, because that talks to the fact that we really as a country need to work out how we best collaborate.
Yeah.
Um,
Agree.
we're a great country for setting up businesses, and individual excellence is wonderful. However, success is when you actually collaborate with others, because you get the 1+1=3 effect. And so grit going further together, I think, is a really nice way of encapsulating that.
Yeah, the gold, that sums it up really nicely. Someone close to me is a business owner, and he said his superpower is he just never gives up. And I think that sums it up in terms of, our business owners as well in that small, medium space. So that's cool. What is the current challenge that SMEs seem to be facing at the moment, from your point of view?
Everyone I talk to at the moment, there's sort of, there's many challenges. Running a business is bloody hard. Your own business is lonely and hard, and doing it even in the best of times, it's difficult. Doing it in the middle of a global pandemic has made it increasingly more difficult. The problems that are coming up for me when I talk to businesses a lot at the moment, one is around talent. Like, how do you find talented people? How do you get the right people in the business? Where can I find people to hire? Which is amazing, because a year ago we thought we were going to have 25% unemployment, and actually it's quite the opposite. We've got zero structurally unemployment. So that's number one. Number two is typically around supply lines. Like, how do I find the stuff I need to make my products, or how do I get my products into the market? So this international disruption that's happening around supply is a real challenge.
Totally.
So those seem to be the number one and two things that I'm hearing again and again and again. And then there are all the normal things about running a business that makes it hard, like customers, making sure we got the right ones, making sure they pay on time, all that sort of stuff. So, boy, it ain't easy to run a business. And anyone that's sort of thinking about going into it, it's got to be, unreasonable and gritty. So, I think today, running a business today, even though we haven't had anywhere near the bad effect that we thought might have happened through COVID, we still have got major challenges for business at the moment. And the services of the Icehouse, both on the venture side with helping find capital, but also on the growth side, helping management capability, learn their business, understand. I think both of them are as critical as ever, if not more so.
Yeah, spot on Icehouse Central, we have like an ask and offer forum, and in the last month or two, man, nearly every single one at the moment is staffing and supply chain. So spot on. It's just even our next two webinars are staffing and supply chain. Any resources we can do to help in those areas, because it's definitely out of the norm. Like you said, it's definitely the hardest sort of thing post-COVID, in a post-COVID world. So yeah, totally.
And it's interesting that, one of the things that used to be on that list was finding growth capital or looking for investment or whatever. And that seems to be less of an issue, partly because of the success of things like the Icehouse Ventures and funds that have been set up. There is more liquidity, there's more money in the market to invest into companies. Companies are getting help to really be more investment ready. The team that Robbie leads and are doing a wonderful job of kind of not only finding the investors and putting money in, but actually helping the businesses get really good at pitching. And so that's become less of a thing. So we shouldn't be despondent about the fact that there are challenges, because there will always be a most important thing. It's interesting that it's changing over the last few years.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so true. With that, what piece of advice would you give a business owner of sort of that small, medium size in New Zealand right now?
Wow, stay in there. Number one. I think
Yeah.
the other thing, and I see this, we've seen this quite a bit. NZT, I always give people advice is that reach out to other people. Like, don't be alone. Running a business, particularly as an owner, manager, or a founder of a business, can feel very lonely and very tough because you don't feel like there's other people you can ask. You might have a team, or you might even have a board, but you feel very lonely as that person who's making the decision between them. And what I've really seen be successful in New Zealand, where we can leverage is our sort of 2 degrees of separation. Our smallness is our huge feature, is that you can reach out to other people and ask for help. Like,
Yeah.
there's no secret to it either, by the way. You don't have to come up with some magic formula. You just literally reach out to them, ring them, find them on LinkedIn, find somebody who knows them. You will definitely be able to find almost anybody in New Zealand within 2 phone calls. It's like that
Yeah,
easy.
so true.
And just say, I'd really love to pick your brains. Can I buy you a coffee or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
it astounds me when I find people who don't do that. Like, I do that all the time. I'm constantly asking people for help. But you've got to be able to admit that you don't know something and that you
Yeah.
might need it. But that would be my number one piece of advice. Don't be lonely. Reach out and ask someone else for help.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a great encouragement to just pick up that phone, make that call. It can
Yeah.
be lonely at the top, and it can be hard to say, hey, I need help, or I don't actually know every single element, or it's not all my strength.
Yeah.
And so that's a great encouragement.
Yeah. Don't be a hero. And the team at the Icehouse are perfect people to start. If you don't, I always just, if I needed to know someone in New Zealand, I would call, and this is not a joke, I would say this, I would call Andy Hamilton. Now
Yeah.
I'd call him. And I say, Andy, do you know so and so? And he go, yeah, I do, or I know such and such, and who knows them? And I go, right, can you get me an introduction? Like, it's that
Exactly.
Icehouse is right at the hub. It's connected to everybody, so use them.
Yeah. Yeah, gold. That's awesome. Cool. What's a piece of advice someone's given you that stuck with you?
Wow, what's a piece of advice that stuck with me? Gosh, that's a good question. Well, one piece of advice I get lots of advice all the time, which is great. One that I find useful is to remember that you're always learning, and so is everybody else. You don't have to be the expert. I went through a period like everyone does in their career, probably, or their life, and maybe it's just a stupid male thing of thinking that you know everything, or thinking that you need to be seen to be the person who knows everything, or whatever. And what I found it to be, when I was like that, it was all right, but I was constantly pretending I did know stuff. It's much
Yeah.
better just ask the dumb question, like, like say, actually, I don't know the answer to that. Like, maybe you could help me,
Yeah.
or just say, look, I'm learning this. I'm constantly learning, and it's better than you open yourself up to people and experiences, and people are very generous with their advice and information when you are like that, when you're just honest and say, look, I don't know.
Mm.
Help me understand it better.
Yeah, totally. And you're just authentic. You're just yourself,
Yeah.
which, yeah, is awesome. I think, yeah, I am throwing in a few questions that I just wanted to know from you. So hence all the extra questions that are being asked right now. I love it. Awesome. In terms of sort of the startup and venture side, so their wording is backing brave.
Yeah.
What does backing brave mean to you from that ventures side of things?
Oh, that's awesome, mate. Gosh, so much packed into 2 words there. That's super cool. It's a great vision or a sort of ambition statement, because it does 2 things. Backing, it's an active word. It's sort of about like, we're behind you, like we are backing, and backing's obviously got multiple meanings. Backing financially, because we financially invest, but also backing in that fact that it's a vote of confidence in you as a business, or you as a business leader. So backing is a word, and then brave describes the type of people or individuals or organizations that we want to work with. Because if you are in that area, and I mean, I said it before, you're by definition an unreasonable person, because you've set up your own business. Like, if you were smart, you would have just invested in a 3-bedroom property in Grey Lynn, 3 years ago. You wouldn't be setting up a business. So the fact that you're setting up a business makes you brave, and it means that you're a different person. You think differently. So, gosh, it's a great comment. Backing brave is an awesome way of
Yeah.
basically saying we invest in people and organizations who are taking a different path.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, they're taking bold steps, which is cool.
Yeah.
With that, what excites you the most about the future of New Zealand business?
Oh, I'm loving at the moment this real move towards what I call conscious business, and or conscious capitalism, which is the idea that we really have to think about what's the role of business and capitalism in a kind of a modern world. And I'm going to sound really woke for a 50-something-year-old, but But
You're talking
honestly,
to a 24-year-old, so don't worry.
I don't know. We're
Yeah.
having a woke. Um, your generation that's helping speed this up. But I think we've been on the journey for a little while. But the idea is that business is just there to make returns for shareholders has really gone out of fashion, and it really rapidly, which is awesome. I mean, yes, we're there to make returns for shareholders, but that's like the scoreboard, not the game.
Yeah.
The scoreboard is, can I make a profit? But the game is what impact am I going to have on the world with this business or venture or whatever? And that's a really interesting shift. And in New Zealand, I think what we're seeing, for example, I do a lot of work in the agricultural and technology spaces. You're seeing businesses really think about sustainable or even regenerative business practices. Like in the agriculture space, not only do we want to be a sustainable business, but actually we want to make our impact on the land such that it's better when we leave or when we finish our activities. And that's a really cool journey. So globally, we're seeing that, and there's these global sort of academic frameworks around donut economics and all sorts of things, and the role of kind of innovation in business. But in New Zealand, we're seeing it. I'm part of a group called the Tohono group, and Tohono is all about taking primary sector, big primary sector businesses and food and beverage to think differently about their role as business leaders and how they think about the land, their impact on people and place. And it's really exciting because 10 years ago, that was a bit of a fringe activity. Now it's becoming kind of a mainstream for businesses to think about sustainable business practice.
Yeah, wow, I love that. And again, speaking my language, so I completely agree with how that the world is heading in that direction and what businesses can do when they do good and the force they can be. So agree. Finishing on a fun note, what is an interesting fact about you?
Gosh, I've got lots of interesting facts. I play the ukulele badly. Well, not badly. I don't play it too badly. I used to be in an ukulele band for about 10 years with a whole lot of my neighbours. I know that sounds really funny, but I was in it by about 25 years. So,
Wow.
so that's pretty cool. I mean, clearly years ago, I was an actor and a writer and that sort of stuff. And I still, I suppose, do that. I found over the years that, it goes back to that authenticity piece. I started my life as a comedian and a writer and an actor, and then I went into the corporate world and I thought you had to pretend to be really grown up and, put on suits and make jokes at the office. And what I discovered was as I relaxed more over my career and got a bit older and went, hey, I'll just be me, I got much more successful.
Awesome.
I don't do stand-up comedy and stuff anymore, and I'm not telling you a joke before you ask me.
Damn it, that was my last question. Literally written here.
But I certainly feel that if you're in the office and in the workplace, you should be yourself. And if yourself is someone who cracks jokes or is funny all the time, then just be that. I mean, if you're a complete idiot, other people will let you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. Thank you so much, David. Really inspired by your positive energy that I know you're just bringing to everywhere you go, but we're really excited to have you part of the Icehouse team as the chair. So appreciate your time.
Great, and I'm loving working with the team so far. I look forward to meeting everybody and also all the people that we serve, our customers and clients and the people that we're having an impact for, because we are essentially doing a service business doing this for others. So we're here to help.
Brilliant. Thanks, David.